Today, I'll be answering the question of what is the worst city on earth. Hey Slavic Vikings, and welcome to a video where I will be analyzing many different factors such as wealth, pollution, happiness, technological advancement, and affordability to figure out where is the worst place to live on earth. First, a quick disclaimer: obviously such a decision is very subjective and there is no obvious objective answer. So make sure to comment your opinion in the comments below and to like and subscribe if you enjoy such videos. So let's start with probably the most important factor when deciding where you want to live, that being safety. According to the Safe Cities Index, Tokyo is the safest city on earth. And this is a general trend. Cities in Southeast Asia are generally pretty safe, and also Europe. Especially, for example, Copenhagen, which is number 8 on the list, and Warsaw, which is generally also considered one of the safest cities in Europe. However, on the bottom of this list are cities like Lagos from Nigeria. Lagos is a huge city that is known to have many problems and a lot of inequality. And there is a correlation between inequality and safety when it comes to these metrics. Another country contender with a lot of unsafe cities is Mexico. For example, the city of Zamora. Zamora is known for its violence, with gangs and other types of violence. For example, it has 610 murders per 100,000 residents, which is extremely high, and it is the second highest ever recorded murder rate. But why care about such trivialities as murder when you can be rich? New York has 340,000 millionaires, which is an extreme amount, and in general, big cities in the US will win the per capita income statistic. And other cities like London and Paris also have very high incomes and in general a lot of wealth. But it is kind of complicated with this wealth metric, since these more wealthy cities also have much higher expenses of living, since everything is just more expensive. So with this, I would be more careful. When it comes to the poorest cities, most of them are in West Africa, especially their capitals, and this is for many reasons, especially terrorism and ethnic conflicts that stifled growth. But officially, the poorest city is the capital of Liberia, that being Monrovia. Remember, it is very hard to determine the poorest cities, and different sources will give different info, but I think this is the most credible answer. Let's now look at pollution. So cities that have very low pollution are cities like Zurich, Perth, or Richards Bay in South Africa. And this is for many reasons, obviously less heavy industry being in those locations, but often it's mostly because of geography. For example, in North Italy there's a lot of pollution because it's one of the least windy places on earth. So it's not always the fault of polluted cities that they're so polluted. In Europe, Kraków and Milan are therefore known as polluted cities, but they don't even come close to the huge cities of India and China. Hotan, China is one of the most polluted cities on earth because of this heavy industry, as well as Pakistan has also many cities on this list. But let's now move on to happiness. An example of cities that are considered the happiest on earth is Helsinki, Finland, and Aarhus, Denmark. Both these cities are relatively smaller than many of the cities we've explored today, which might be a big factor into a city's happiness. So having a smaller population might mean less overall wealth, but you might be happier instead. But let's look instead now into the saddest, most depressed cities on earth. Immediately a city comes to mind, that being Pyongyang, North Korea, the capital, with a bunch of fake buildings, everything being fake, a tall skyscraper that never got finished, and overall a lot of negativity. Norilsk, Russia is also known to be very depressed, and that is also because they have a high pollution, which I might have forgotten to mention earlier, and they overall have a bunch of cold and darkness which make them sad. I mean, just look at where this city is situated. It's in the middle of Siberia, far away from any other city in Russia, yet alone other countries. So if you're in this city, you're basically stuck here for life, which makes sense why this is one of the most depressed cities. When it comes to technological advancement, once again we see Tokyo. Tokyo is one of the most advanced technological cities on Earth, and right next to Tokyo, or kind of next to Tokyo, once again Pyongyang is the least technologically developed city because of all the sanctions and everything. You know, they don't even have phones, although they do have Swedish Volvos. All of these mentioned things don't matter if you can't even afford to live there. London and Paris might be very idealized and perfect places to live in, but it is extremely expensive to live in both of these places. And that's why it's important to include affordability when picking what city you want to live in. If you're looking for a high quality of life, but low costs, then obviously Eastern Europe is a top pick to go. Like, for example, Warsaw. A city with extremely good public transport and relatively cheap to live in compared to other big cities in Europe. The public transport especially is extremely cheap when, for example, compared to Copenhagen, where tickets can be 10 times more expensive than in Warsaw. So I know I've given examples of different factors that could be considered a worst or best city, but what is the actual worst city on Earth? Once again, quick disclaimer, this is subjective, and I'm also not considering like active war zones like Gaza City, although it probably would be up there. So my top contender for the worst city on Earth is Damascus, Syria, the capital of Syria. Although, immediate disclaimer, this is only if you don't take affordability to account, since this city is also the cheapest city on Earth. And that makes sense actually, since there is a direct correlation between how many people want to live in the city versus how expensive it is. But why Damascus, you may ask? Well, years of conflict in the Middle East, different tensions, terrorist attacks, a bunch of awful stuff happening to this city caused it to have awful amenities for its citizens. For example, years of conflict have severely damaged its infrastructure. Its healthcare is basically non-existent. Sanctions on Syria have caused to extreme economic hardship. Schools are destroyed because of bombings. There's basically no utility. A bunch of people are homeless because of these bombings. People are starving on the street. And a bunch of other stuff that make this city the worst city on Earth. But what if I take into consideration affordability? That being how expensive it is to live in that place. Well, in that case, my answer would be Paris, the capital of France. In this city, every mattress is either full of bedbugs or on fire on the street because of some protest. This street smells like shit. I've been to Paris, so I know. It's overrated, being what I think it's the most visited city on Earth. I've been there, it's very overrated. There's French people everywhere, which is probably the worst part of France. I mean Paris. There's traffic, it takes 2 hours to drive like 1 kilometer, the air pollution is awful, there's a bunch of homelessness, noise pollution, crime, a bunch of stuff and factors that I've covered make this city awful. So in summary, Damascus is the worst city that's very cheap, and Paris is the worst city that's expensive. Do you agree with me? Do you disagree? Tell me your opinion in the comments below. If this video gets 500 likes, I'll make a part 2 where I'll cover the best city on Earth, not the worst. And as always, farewell, żegnam and goodbye.